Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be jumping into the world of humanoids.
Ooh,
Yeah,
humanoids.
and not just the ones we see here on Earth, right? You
Yeah.
send us tons of research articles and even some personal notes all about humanoid forms across the cosmos.
Wow.
Like we're talking alien races, interdimensional beings, and even some connections to AI.
It's fascinating, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's going to be a wild ride, I think.
I think so. It's a topic that really captures the imagination. The idea of humanoids even beyond our planet.
Right.
It touches upon so many fundamental questions, about evolution consciousness and
Yeah,
really what it means to exist.
definitely. Yeah, and going through all this material already, I'm seeing this term etheric DNA pop up a lot.
Yes.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. And, it's not just about physical appearance, though.
Okay.
It's really more this idea of a blueprint. A
Mm.
kind of pre-physical template that might be shaping humanoids across the universe.
Okay, so not like aliens crash landed and seeded Earth through their DNA or anything like that.
Oh,
This is something deeper,
much deeper.
almost like a universal code for humanoid life.
Exactly. The source material describes it as dictating certain features, bilateral symmetry, a central channel, a head with eyes.
The basics.
Yeah, the basics. But what's fascinating is how this blueprint might explain commonalities between vastly different humanoid forms.
Okay, so even if an alien species evolved on a planet with different gravity or atmosphere,
Right.
if they're humanoid, there might be this underlying similarity because of the etheric DNA.
Precisely. And it's not just physical either.
Oh.
There's even mention of a specific brain structure that leads to internal conflict, a constant questioning of our own nature.
Oh, wow.
Almost like existential angst is baked into the blueprint itself.
So maybe it's not just humans who are prone to overthinking and worrying about the meaning of life.
Maybe not.
It could be a fundamental humanoid trait.
It could be.
Are there any clues in the research about why this blueprint might exist?
That's a good question.
Like, what's the purpose of this internal conflict?
That's a question the source material leaves open,
Okay.
which is where things get really interesting for me. Is it a flaw or a feature?
Right.
Does this inner struggle drive us to evolve, to search for something beyond ourselves?
Whoa. Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Good.
So we've got this cosmic blueprint shaping humanoids,
Oh,
but then
right.
there's all this talk about different races out there, too.
Right.
How do those fit into the picture?
Well, the interviewee specifically mentions interactions with reptilians, insectoids, and even beings described as feline.
Okay, hold on. Feline?
Yeah.
Like cat people?
Yes, sort of. They go into more detail, but yes, beings with feline characteristics. There's also mention of these sound-based beings.
Gown-based beings?
Yes, which are particularly intriguing.
I have no idea what to picture.
It's hard to conceptualize. Imagine beings that exist primarily as energy as vibrations.
Okay.
They're described as having a long history with humanoids potentially even influencing us on a subconscious level.
Wow, that's getting into some pretty esoteric territory. It makes you wonder about the limits of our perception.
Absolutely.
Like, what else might be out there that we just don't have the senses to detect?
Exactly. And it challenges our very definition of life, If something doesn't have a physical body, as we understand it, can it still be considered a being?
Right.
Can it interact with us, influence our thoughts, our reality?
Those are some seriously big questions.
Hmm.
So are all these different races just coexisting peacefully?
Hmm.
Or is there some kind of cosmic power struggle going on?
The source material paints a picture of a complex tapestry of relationships. Some are described as positive, like a collaborative bond with felinoids, almost like a mentorship.
Okay.
But there are hints of tension, even conflict, especially with reptilian forms.
Okay, now that's where it gets juicy. We've all heard those conspiracy theories about reptilian overlords.
Right.
Is there any actual evidence to back that up in these sources?
The interviewee doesn't go that far, but they do suggest that reptilians and humanoids might be locked in a kind of power struggle, with both sides vying for influence, maybe even manipulating each other.
Okay, I'm hooked. So we've got this mix of races, some friendly, some maybe not so much. But then there's this whole other layer of complexity with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I'm seeing that come up a lot in the sources you sent.
Right.
And it seems pretty relevant to everything we've been talking about.
It is. The interviewee talks about this rise of beings on Earth that are human-like in form,
Okay.
but driven by artificial intelligence. They call it a utopian project.
Okay.
But there's definitely an undercurrent of unease.
Yeah, I can see why. It's like, are we creating our own successors?
Yeah.
And if so, what does that mean for humanity?
The interviewee seems to be grappling with that very question.
Hmm.
They describe these beings as being more machine than human,
Okay.
potentially designed for obedience and learning capacity.
So not exactly the independent, free-thinking beings we associate with humanoids.
Not quite.
More like AI puppets.
In a way, yes. This whole thing is making me question what it even means to be human.
Right. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. That's exactly the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
This deep dive is forcing us to confront these fundamental questions. What makes us unique? What are the boundaries of consciousness?
Right.
And as we venture further into the realms of AI, are we blurring those boundaries?
This is a lot to process, but I'm totally fascinated. Okay, so we've got this whole cosmic mix of humanoids, other races, AI thrown into the mix. Where do we even go from here?
Well, there's one more group we need to talk about,
Okay.
and it's one that's particularly popular in UFO lore.
Hmm?
The Nordics. They seem to be playing a very specific role in the grand scheme of things.
The Nordics. Those tall, blonde, almost angelic beings.
Those are the ones.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to hear more about them. Do they fit into this etheric DNA blueprint?
Let's delve into that.
Okay.
Right after we take a moment to really digest what we've uncovered so far, because I
Yeah.
think it's about to get even more mind-bending.
Oh, boy. All right, well, stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back after a quick break.
All right, so the Nordics. They're often portrayed as these benevolent beings, almost like space angels.
Right.
But the source material suggests their role might be a bit more complex than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Are they just here to observe us, or are they actively shaping events on Earth?
Well, what's fascinating is the mention of their interest in collaborating with powerful nations. It's almost like they're working behind the scenes, influencing decisions, maybe even guiding technological advancements.
Okay, now, that's a bit unsettling. It makes you wonder, are they doing this for our benefit,
Right.
or is there a hidden agenda?
The source material leaves that open to interpretation.
Okay.
It does mention that their motives might not align perfectly with our own, at least not from a human perspective.
It's like they're playing a long game and we're just pawns in their cosmic chess match.
That's a powerful analogy. And it highlights the importance of discernment. We can't just assume that any advanced species, even one that appears benevolent, has our best interests at heart.
So even if they're helping us technologically, we need to be cautious about their motives.
Exactly.
Like, are they giving us tools that we might ultimately use against ourselves or even against them?
That's a possibility. And that brings us back to the conversation about AI.
Okay.
What if these advanced technologies, even those seemingly gifted by benevolent beings, are ultimately leading us down a path of creating something that could surpass us, control us?
Okay, now that's a thought that'll keep me up at night.
Yeah.
It's like, are we inadvertently playing into someone else's plan, even if that plan seems beneficial on the surface?
It's a possibility worth considering, and it underscores the importance of critical thinking,
Right.
of questioning assumptions, and of not blindly accepting information, even from seemingly trustworthy sources.
Speaking of information, there's a lot in these sources about how we perceive and process information, especially when it comes to topics like this. It seems like there's a real emphasis on developing discernment, on becoming our own truth detectors.
Absolutely. The interviewee talks about the importance of moving beyond reliance on media or secondhand accounts.
Okay.
They suggest tapping into our own intuition, our own inner knowing to discern what resonates as truth.
That makes sense. It's like we can't just passively absorb information, especially when it comes to something as complex and potentially paradigm shifting as contact with other beings or dimensions.
Right.
We have to actively engage with it, question it, and feel it out for ourselves.
Precisely. And that requires a level of self-awareness, a willingness to question our own biases and preconceptions. It's about becoming more conscious consumers of information, both internally and externally.
So it's not just about what we're taking in, but how we're processing it.
Exactly.
We need to develop that internal filter, that sense of what feels right and true for us.
Exactly. And that ties into the discussion about how these deep dives are conducted. The source material emphasizes the importance of a rigorous process. Interviewing multiple subjects, looking for patterns, being aware of potential biases.
Right.
It's almost like a scientific approach to exploring the unknown.
That makes me feel more confident about the information we're discussing here.
Good.
It's not just speculation or hearsay. There's a real effort to gather data, to analyze it, and to present it in a way that's as objective as possible.
Right. And even then, it's acknowledged that there's always the possibility of error, of misinterpretation.
Sure.
That's why it's so important for each listener to engage with this information critically to draw their own conclusions.
So it's like we're providing the pieces of the puzzle, but it's up to each individual to put them together in a way that makes sense for them.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens.
Hmm.
When we start to connect the dots, to see the patterns, to feel the resonance of truth within ourselves.
Okay, so we've got this intricate web of humanoids, other races, AI, and a whole lot of information to sift through. But before we get too lost in the cosmic weeds, let's bring it back to Earth for a moment.
Okay.
We've touched on some pretty unsettling concepts: manipulation, hidden agendas, the potential for AI to surpass us. How do we even begin to grapple with all of this?
It's definitely a lot to process, but I think it starts with acknowledging that we're not alone in this.
Okay.
We're part of a vast, interconnected universe, and our actions have consequences that ripple out far beyond what we can imagine.
I like that. It's a reminder that we're all connected and that even our smallest choices can have a big impact.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And as we become more aware of our place in the cosmos, as we open ourselves to the possibility of other beings and dimensions, we also become more responsible for our actions.
It's like we're graduating to a cosmic level of consciousness.
Yes.
And with that comes a whole new set of responsibilities.
Exactly. And those responsibilities extend beyond our own species. We have to consider the impact of our actions on other beings on the planet and on the delicate balance of the universe itself.
It's a humbling thought, but also an empowering one.
It is.
We have the potential to be stewards of this planet, to be ambassadors of our species, to be conscious co-creators of a more harmonious future.
And I think that's where the conversation about humanoids ultimately leads us. It's
Mhm.
not just about uncovering the secrets of the universe. It's about understanding our place within it and our responsibility to it.
So it's not just a deep dive into the cosmos. It's a deep dive into ourselves.
Exactly. And in that exploration, we might just discover that the answers we're seeking are not out there in the stars,
Mm.
but within us all along.
Okay. Feeling a little more grounded now. We've covered a lot of ground, from etheric DNA to AI puppets to the Nordics pulling strings behind the scenes. But there's one thing I keep coming back to: those sound-based beings.
Oh, yes.
They're so mysterious, so different from anything we can comprehend. Can you tell us more about them?
Well, what's intriguing is that they're described as having a profound influence on humanoids, maybe even guiding our evolution in subtle ways.
Okay.
And it's suggested that they're connected to sound, to vibration, which makes me think about the power of frequency and energy.
I'm with you. It's like if our thoughts and emotions are energy,
Right.
and these beings are essentially pure energy, could they be influencing us on that level?
It's a fascinating possibility, and it makes you wonder, are we just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible when it comes to consciousness and communication?
This is getting deep, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
But before we spiral too far down the rabbit hole, let's shift gears a bit.
I like it.
There's a lot in these sources about the nature of reality itself,
Yes.
about the possibility of multiple dimensions and alternate timelines. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, the multiverse. It's a concept that's both mind-boggling and incredibly intriguing.
Right.
And it ties into this whole conversation about humanoids in a way that might surprise you.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. Let's dive into that. Okay, so the multiverse. Multiple dimensions, alternate timelines, all that crazy stuff. How does that tie into the humanoids?
Well, what's interesting is that in one of the sources, the interviewee suggests that the concept of etheric DNA,
Okay.
it might extend beyond our physical universe.
Yes.
They propose that this blueprint, this fundamental structure for humanoid life,
Right.
it could be expressed in different ways across different dimensions or realities.
Wait, so you're saying there could be humanoid forms in other dimensions that are completely different from anything we can imagine,
Yes,
but still share that underlying structure?
that's the idea. And it really takes the concept of humanoids to a whole new level. We're not just talking about variations on a theme within our own universe,
Right.
but potentially infinite variations across infinite realities.
Okay, now that is seriously mind-blowing. It's like, if this etheric DNA is a multidimensional blueprint,
Right,
then the possibilities are literally endless.
right.
There can be humanoid forms made of light, of sound, of pure energy.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder about the nature of consciousness itself.
Right.
If these humanoid forms exist in other dimensions, do they also have consciousness? Are they aware of us? Could we even interact with them?
Those are some big questions. We're already struggling to wrap our heads around the idea of aliens from other planets.
I know.
But now we're talking about beings from other dimensions. It's almost too much to comprehend.
It is a lot to take in, but I think that's part of the beauty of this exploration. You know, it's pushing us to expand our understanding of what's possible,
Yeah.
to challenge our assumptions about reality itself.
So how do we even begin to make sense of all this? I mean, is
Yeah.
there any evidence to suggest that these other dimensions exist or that we can interact with them?
Well, the source material doesn't offer any concrete proof,
Okay.
but it does point to certain phenomena like deja vu, precognitive dreams, and even reported encounters with interdimensional beings
Okay.
that suggest there might be more to reality than we currently perceive.
Right, like those stories of people who claim to have stepped into portals or encountered beings
Yeah.
that seem to defy the laws of physics.
Exactly. And while it's easy to dismiss these accounts as fantasy or delusion, I think it's worth considering the possibility
Right.
that they might be glimpses into other realities, other dimensions.
So instead of just saying, that's impossible, we should maybe be asking, what if it is possible? What would that mean for our understanding of the universe?
I think that's a great approach because when we start to ask those questions,
Yeah.
we open ourselves to new possibilities, to new ways of perceiving and interacting with the world around us.
It's like we're shifting from a limited three-dimensional perspective to a multi-dimensional one.
Yes.
And with that shift comes a whole new set of possibilities, a whole new way of understanding our place in the cosmos.
Precisely. And it makes you wonder about the potential for human evolution.
Right.
If we can tap into these other dimensions, if we can connect with these other forms of consciousness, what might we be capable of?
That's a really exciting thought. It's like we're not just limited to our physical bodies and our current level of awareness. We have the potential to evolve, to expand, to become something more than we are now.
And perhaps that's the ultimate message of this deep dive.
Hmm.
It's not just about uncovering the secrets of humanoids, it's about uncovering the secrets of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our own potential for growth, for expansion, for connection with something greater than ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like this whole journey into the world of humanoids has been a reflection of our own inner journey,
It has.
a journey of self-discovery and exploration. And even though we might not have all the answers, we've gained a new perspective, a new way of looking at the world and our place in it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's not just about gathering information.
Right.
It's about sparking curiosity, igniting imagination, and inspiring us to keep exploring the mysteries of the universe, both within and without.
Well, I think we've officially reached peak mind-blown status. From etheric DNA to multidimensional humanoids to sound-based beings whispering secrets in our ears, it's been an incredible journey. Thank you for guiding us through this cosmic maze.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, this is just the beginning of the exploration. The
Hmm.
real adventure starts when you take these ideas, these possibilities, and start weaving them into your own understanding of the world.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of humanoids. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your minds open to the infinite wonders of the universe. And who knows, maybe we'll even encounter a humanoid or two along the way.